All right, let's start it. The first episode of Beyond the Show podcast. And the very first guest that we have on this episode is no other than the legend, Ray Chang. And Ray Chang, I'll have to call you Coach Ray. And why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and kind of give everybody a little background of who you are, what you have done, and where you're from, so on and so forth.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Well, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be the first guest on your podcast. Hopefully, many more to come. But yeah, so I was born and raised in the States in Kansas City, Missouri. Both my parents are from China, where my mom's from Shanghai, my dad's from Hong Kong. Moved over to Kansas City to start a restaurant business many, many years ago, and grew up there, went through the education system in Kansas City, went to college. And then out of college, I signed out of a tryout camp in Ida Grove, Iowa, with the San Diego Padres. So that's kind of how my baseball career started. Played 13 years, bounced around 5 different organizations, played, 5-6 years in AAA. And then once my career was over, I moved to China, took a job with MLB China, played a few times with the national team for the WBC for Team China. Great experience there. Did the coach player thing for one of the WBCs in 2023. Was it 23, I believe? Yes, I think it was 23. But yeah, it's been a great ride so far doing this. This is my 9th year here with MLB China. But seeing a lot of great development in baseball in China over the years, and obviously we've had some guys sign MLB contracts, so that's been a very rewarding experience for sure.
Absolutely. And I think most of Chinese baseball fan will know you, and with your clutch hit in both of the World Series World Baseball Classic, you were in one against Brazil, and that was like one of the biggest hit. And when we defeat Chinese Taipei as well, and your hit kind of clutch, go ahead hit, and I just want to want to understand, like, how did this opportunity came about, and while you're still playing the Pro Bowl and you joined Team China to play WBC, how did that came about?
Oh man, it was crazy. It was a crazy story. So I was training by myself in one of the baseball facilities in Kansas City, where I'm from. And it was late night. I had already finished my morning training. I was laying on the couch watching TV. And, I just had one of those feelings where I feel like I haven't got enough work done today. Somebody out there is getting work done and training and working harder than me. So it was like 8 p.m. and I got off my couch and I drove, 15 minutes to the training facility, and I walked in there. There was nobody there, just me. So I was taking some, doing some wall ground balls and hitting balls off the tee. And all of a sudden, this father and son comes in, and they're doing their thing. And later they walk over to me, the father, and was like, "Hey, are you Chinese?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Hey, I work for MLB Development Center in Wuxi," and no idea what that was, at the time. I was like, "Hey, that's great," and so we exchanged contact numbers, and then later on, I got reached out by Rick Dell, which was the head of MLB, DC back in the day, and asked me to come over the off season when I finished the season, and so I came over for a month back in 2008. I went to a Beijing Tianjin professional baseball game, and I was watching in the in the seats, and I had a chance to meet the president of baseball operations. Baseball of China Baseball Association back then, and the rest is history. She invited me. She asked me if I had some interest in playing for Team China in the WBC, and I said yes. And then that was that. Yeah, that's kind of how it started.
That's awesome. That's an awesome story. Just trying to get some more works in, as a baseball player, and it leads to a great opportunity. It sounds like. And what's your favorite memory in those WBC games you ever had? And both, I guess, coaching or playing.
I would say, yeah. I mean, had you mentioned at the beginning, it had to have been the Taiwan, home run, just because that was my first one. You know, Unfamiliar with the teammates, familiar with Team China baseball. They're probably like, "Who is this kid?" So the fact that that happened and we won. I mean, embracing the teammates. After we made the final out, I would say that has to be top. You know, um, the Brazil game was fun too. The following WBC, getting the go ahead hit to do it back to back. Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like those two were top. As the coaching side, it was really great because I had an opportunity to coach with my former Pirates Double A pitching coach, and him and I are really good friends to this day. So that was fun. That was a cool experience for me doing that, working along beside him. Um, but yeah, it was there was a lot of great moments, but I would say those kind of stand out a little bit more.
Well, you talk about you have some of your familiar faces on the team with you with Team China. I have to mention this two of these coaches. While you were in, well, you spent all the years in minor league, and I bet the coaching staff was awesome. But at some point, you're in AAA. You got to be thinking about, hey, when I go to the major, I will get to work with coaches like Terry Collins and John McLaren, like that kind of caliber. Well, they're right in front of you. And the
Yeah.
first year, obviously, Terry was there, and then second year, third year, John was there. And how was that dynamic that you have once you joined the team? How were they like, and how were you? Did you have
Yeah.
like a starstruck? And well, how was that like for you?
Yeah, starstruck, definitely. But two great people, man. I mean, I still talk to both these days. I actually just spoke to John, a few weeks back, but it was intimidating, at first. I remember walking into Detroit Tiger spring training camp because that's what Team China was training at the time, and shook Terry's hand, and I mean, I was starstruck at the time, because he wasn't coaching the Mets at the time.
Hmm.
But you knew his background, and then when he did coach the Mets after the WBC, you're like, oh yeah, I had a chance to play for that guy. It's pretty cool, but awesome, awesome guy. It was intimidating, and they're in the dugouts. They were calm, very calm demeanor. But then once something bad happened, you could feel, you feel the big league wrath, I guess, but they were super. Both of them were super, passionate about China baseball. I mean, John did it for a couple of years, and then,
Hmm.
he's still doing stuff, pertaining to China baseball to this day. But good people, intimidating, learned a lot for sure. But it was amazing playing for those two. Yeah, it was just a great experience. Very lucky.
Awesome, awesome. So, I guess my next question, when it comes to, you grew up in Kansas City. What was like to grow up in Kansas City as with the Asian heritage, which like you full blown Chinese, and not I would assume that there's not many Chinese kids playing baseball. How did you get into baseball?
Yeah, there weren't a lot of Asian kids in my school or in my neighborhood. Um, I didn't look at it. Of course, I was young. I didn't look at it as oh man, I'm Chinese. But I just looked like I was just belonged in the group with everybody else, right? So, um, baseball, sports in general were my parents. They said when I was just a little toddler, that I had in my hand. I mean, that was it. I didn't care about GI Joes or cars or whatever other toys that normal kids play. We just needed a glove or a hoop or a racket or something that involved the ball. That's what I wanted to do. So my parents got me involved in sports, and baseball is obviously one of them. But I played a lot of sports growing up, and then as I kind of got a little bit older, baseball started to grow into a passion. My
Right.
best passion.
Right. So we all know in the United States there's a certain pipeline to go play pro. And I wonder when was that become clear that you were able to, or you are to the level that you would be able to be signed by a professional team? Is that high school? You like, I'm gonna go for it, or like college? When did that happen to you? Like just in your brain, there's something like switched.
I mean, the thought of, was I good enough, or did I know I was good enough? I mean, that didn't happen until I got the call from the Padres, because I never, like, I knew that probably, I would say, in college, that there was an opportunity, because my sophomore year, I'm sorry, my junior year, scouts started to talk to me, and so I think that's when I kind of, hey, I might have a shot at this, filling out those player information cards like everybody else does. But I got some individual attention, which is kind of, that was a cool moment. But that's kind of, I guess that's kind of when I first kind of started to understand minor league baseball, or getting signed by a pro team in high school, because I had a teammate, John Mayberry Jr. His father played many years in pro ball, and this kid was a first round pick, at a high school. I'm sorry, at a high school and college. So I kind of, going by him, I was kind of like, huh, you know, this is something, this is a dream, and this is something achievable. But college, junior year was the first time that I kind of actually felt like, hey, man, there might be an opportunity here. But it was always a dream of mine since I was a little kid. Just, never thought that it could be a reality. Yeah.
Awesome. So like I guess the environment in America is like there's clear pipeline that kids
Mhm.
trying to go after. No matter it's back in the day, your year would play high school baseball, trying to go into the state, or trying to win the state, and going to
Yep.
big time colleges, and hopefully getting signed by or drafted by the professional team. Or
Yep.
what about kind of like the process here in China, in the development center? How were the kids being developed or even scouted and to play baseball? And how does that look like the process? And how are those kids doing right now that you're coaching?
Yeah. So the process goes, really, we recruit these kids when they're 11 and 12, or even earlier. We follow. And then, once we feel like, hey, these guys are talented enough, or guys we feel like that are prospects, we sign them to 6-year contracts at our MLB Development Centers. It's a tough thing, because they're 12 years old. We've got kids from Qinghai, we've got kids from,
Right.
Shenzhen, Hong Kong. I mean, and we're in the central part, central eastern part of China, in Nanjing, Wuxi, and Hangzhou at the time. And it was a tough decision for parents to send their 12-year-old kids all the way across the country. So that was a challenge for us too, because we of course missed out on a lot of talented kids. But that's kind of how the process works, and then we go and find these kids. I did the individual recruiting, traveled all 4 corners of China, and then we, did tournaments. So we recruited it from them. So we develop them for 6 years. We train them every single day. Try to get them opportunities outside of China to play elite competition. And then we host showcases in China twice a year. We bring over scouts every time for it. And that's kind of the pipeline, and
Right.
and then, of course, when we send them over to the States to play tournaments, there'll be scouts there. We'll try to set up something. Perfect game is another avenue that guys have signed in the past. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. Yeah.
In America, kids nowadays, high school baseball is not a. I don't know if you're at noticed picking up the information. High school baseball is kind of like it's a substitute to travel baseball. And what's your thought? Compare your old days that when you play baseball, probably travel ball was not a thing at all, and nowadays like everybody trying to play travel ball. The parents spend tens of thousands of dollars to put the kids on the team. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, travel ball was around when I played because when I
Oh,
was
okay.
8 years old, I was approached by um, a parent saying that, hey, one of the other parents is putting together a team and traveling across the country to play. So I was lucky. I was probably one of the very few, obviously to be approached and then, to join this travel ball kind of system. But it didn't happen very often, but it was around, but not like it is today, and I just, the only thing I think it's great that kids are getting an opportunity to play and travel and play different types of competition.
Hmm.
But, at the end of the day, it is a money making operation, right? And,
Absolutely.
for me, I just hope it's the, the genuine way of, trying to get kids opportunities because when they asked me to play, I mean, the guy who sponsored the team, I mean, he paid for everything,
Hmm.
uniform, tournament fees, most of the travel costs. I mean, he genuinely wanted to do this the right way and help kids get the opportunities. So, like I said, now it's a more of a money making,
Hmm.
operation, and these guys are paying thousands and thousands of dollars, to do some of this perfect game stuff, to play tournaments, all this stuff, and that's just kind of the way it goes right now, to be able to
Right.
get seen and but yeah, I think that's the biggest difference. Yeah.
Right. A little bit background about myself. I'm from Nanning, which was all the way down south. And if you compare to, like, for the American audience, if you don't know where I'm from, Nanning, Guangxi, China. If you want to compare to a similar American city, you probably can said is New Orleans. Um, all the way down south, swampland, super humid. And we're like, my hometown is inside pretty much a lot of mountains. So to get those, we call new toys, it's really hard for us. I remember when I was about 5, 6 year old, I asked my mom, hey, I watched this Japanese anime about Japanese high school baseball. I really want to do it. It's really similar to Slam Dunk, that type of anime. And I asked my mom, "Can you find me a team to go play?" And my mom said, "I can." I drove around town, asked around people. There's nothing I can do, and I didn't get to know like professional or like real baseball until I get to college in China, and where there's a club team. We play slow pitch softball, and there's some Americans or people from other countries that play baseball will join us. Then I kind of slowly understand how the sport work. But for nowadays, the information highway is just so much faster for everybody to gather those information. And um, I'm actually so I guess one question is that so more kids know about baseball nowadays in China. What do you think would be a beneficial things for the Chinese kids to do? I know it's really hard to organize something like travel baseball, but like, what's the things that can actually get Chinese kids to get interested in baseball, actually have more opportunity to play baseball on the even on a higher level for those kids, not even from, let's say, the bigger city, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou. What do you think will be the best way?
Well, the great thing now, I mean, you mentioned your hometown, Nanning, right? There was
Mm-hmm.
actually a few years back, there was we MLB hosted an MLB Cup youth tournament there, and I actually went there to go, and never heard of Nanning, but I went there and I spent a couple of days there. Really, really enjoyed it. But that was actually the first thing that I thought about was, I'm watching the games, have a lot of time to think, and like all these, smaller town kids who don't have access to baseball, now they have access to baseball. They have access to, okay, the MLB logo. What is this opportunity to research it and then develop a dream, about playing baseball, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think that part has been changed a lot in China, where there's just so much more access, so many more baseball clubs all across the country now. And these clubs are, you can see on the WeChat groups and the moments that they're taking kids in the summer, or not even just the summer, times where there's an extended time off period, going to Japan, going to Taiwan, going to the United States, going to Australia to play baseball and taking their teams, kind of like the travel ball system, I guess, right? So, um, but now, kids in smaller cities have so much more access to, these baseball clubs or these teams or these tournaments now, um, where they can chase or they can develop their dreams. Now, it's still not what we experience in the US for sure. I mean, that's obvious, but I think kids who want to go to the path of, how I grew up, in the United States, playing higher level baseball, it's
Right.
still it's still very limited. I mean, obviously we're one of the organizations, the teams that prepare them, from day one to do that. So,
Hmm.
if kids want to chase that dream, I truly believe that we're still the best way or the best option to do that. Because like I said, we're 100% locked into sending kids over. But baseball is definitely more prevalent now, more well known across the country, just more access, which is great. And that's what MLB wanted to do. That's their goal, to have more kids, more followers, more people understanding that MLB is just a hat, more than just a hat or a T-shirt or the Yankees logo or the Tigers logo or the Dodgers logo. It's a 30 team league in the United States, and it's an opportunity to chase a dream. So yeah.
Absolutely. And have you seen a spike of competitive level after, let's say, those kids able to go to different countries like Japan, Korea, Australia, even the United States to compete with that? How does that benefit kids from a competition level?
I feel like that's the biggest opportunity for a kid to improve is to go and play high competition baseball. And not just high competition baseball, but getting that social cultural experience, seeing different types of baseball, playing against kids better than you. Whenever we send our kids over to the United States to play for a month, I mean, even just this past year when we took them to Cortland, New York to play for a month, you could see the improvement week by week by week by week. And then when they come back to play, it's a different level of confidence. It's a different mindset and vision for them. Like before, we're trying to get this kid, hey, you got to hit the weight room. You're too weak, you're too skinny, you're not going to be able to compete against those guys. And then he experienced that. He experienced the failure. He experienced the intimidation of playing against monster kids. And then just 3 days ago, we get a message from him in the group chat saying, I want a personal weight plan, you know. And so those are the things that why it's so important for these kids to go out and play and see different things and open their eyes and get those experiences, because we can tell them every single day, but until they actually experience it, that's when dreams are made, to be honest. A 12-year-old can tell me, I played in the MLB Cup youth finals. I want to be an MLB player. Okay, that's great. That's a good start.
Right.
But you don't know the process. You don't know,
Right.
the routine and the path and the process of how to do that unless you're actually there watching it. Going to an MLB game I've seen that be the difference maker, and so you got to see it, you got to feel it, and then it'll become a dream, an actual dream. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, I guess the next question would be, let's say if you were back in Kansas City, you were 10,
Yep.
12 years old, all of a sudden you're playing this baseball tournament, there's a whole team of Chinese kids showed up. What would you learn from them? I'm just thinking from a different perspective. Let's say if I'm from the United States, this summer, I play in the baseball tournament. Whole bunch of kids from outside the country come in. How do you think American kids will accept that different culture, and how would that benefit from like a character building standpoint for the American baseball players?
You know what? one of the coolest things that I think has happened over the past 3 years when we've taken our teams over to Cortland, New York to play in the PBR and PBR tournaments has
Mhm.
been whenever they see our Chinese kids play, um, they're the other opponents are our biggest fans. You know, they come over, they're just like they're I don't want to say starstruck, but they're like thrown back because we're like, wow, there's an MLB team in the US, you know, I'm sorry, in China, and they get so curious, you know, they want to see what kind of baseball is being played, and they become friends. You know, you know,
Mhm.
they download the WeChat or they exchange Instagrams. You know, like that happens really fast and always. You know, when we come over, so I've been really impressed, and I love that because our kids get to feel that. You know, our
Mhm.
kids get to see, hey man, you know, because social media, they you see a lot of things that are just not true, and people in the US see stuff about China sees stuff about US. And
Absolutely.
for me, my biggest recommendation to kids is go see it for yourself, and then you make a decision on how you feel about that specific culture, that specific country. And so when I see that, when they get embraced like that, I get
Mhm.
so happy, because I'm like, you know what,
Absolutely.
it just adds to their dream. It adds to their feel like, okay, I really want to do this now, So um, that's what we've experienced over the years for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I guess it comes to my last question. All you have been with MLB DC for what 7, 8 years about that time. 17. So it's 9 years into 2026. So 9 years and counting. What is your biggest goal, and how do you think the goal or your goal, the goal of MLB China, the development center, and the whole MLB in general is for this operation in China, and how can we as baseball people to help to push forward those progress and have, let's say, one day the Yao Ming in MLB.
Goal is, I know I get that question a lot. That thing you just mentioned at the end about Yao Ming, like,
Mm-hmm.
people ask me, you're probably, trying to pursue the first Yao Ming, and once Yao Ming of baseball comes, it's going to change China baseball forever. There's some truth to that. There is. You see Yao Ming, for example, or you see some of these niche sports like, UFC when Zhang Wei Li, broke
Mm-hmm.
onto the scene, and it does change the game, in its way. But for me, it's about creating a culture in China, creating more paths, like you said, getting these kids to put on a baseball or to put on a baseball uniform, to hold a bat, to hold a glove, because if not if, but when there's a baseball big leaguer from China, it's going to happen. Um, is the culture, is the system strong enough? Is there a foundation in China where, okay, you got the first one to go. Let's continue producing. Let's continue, getting more and more and more and more again. Because you look at Yao Ming, right? And no knock against, the NBA or basketball, but there
Mm-hmm.
hasn't really been another one. I mean, you got a couple right now, developing, but you don't see like a wave of people coming over like you do in Europe or you do, in other countries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or in baseball, you got, Dominican, you got Venezuela.
Yep.
So my vision and my personal dream is, to help however I can to make the base culture in baseball better. I mean, to be able to have even more kids play and have more youth tournaments. And right now there's a new Chinese professional league where we're
Mm-hmm.
where we're inviting imports, international players coming over. Young kids are seeing different types of baseball, those things like that. To be involved in that, to help in any way I can. develop an even better culture and system where kids can play baseball all the way through their childhood and then get more opportunities to go abroad and play more international baseball. So whenever there is um, the first Yao Ming of baseball in China, there's always going to be someone in waiting in the wing. There's always going to be someone, behind him, and then following in his footsteps. So that's kind of my personal dream and vision. Of baseball in China. So
Absolutely. I totally agree with what you just said because everybody's seeing China. It's a big sports country. We won so many gold medals. It's not like we don't have the talent. It's can you get 200 at bat a season to see different pitches, to get different grounders and catching different fly balls in different lighting scenarios. Baseball is nuanced. Baseball is so much details to not just going in a straight line, sprinting. Baseball is so much as a five-tool sports, and you have to at least good at three to be able to survive, and you have to keep on putting in reps. And as you said, 8 p.m., you're laying on the couch, you're thinking about other people is doing more work than I am, so I'm going out there to hit cages. And that's something that I feel like that's the baseball culture because baseball, for me, I work in minor league baseball. Kids are grinding. Kids are grinding and they cherish every at bat. And I feel like those repetition they get either from high school, college, travel ball, whatnot, and it's kind of build their skill set and build their personality. And this is the whole baseball culture. It's about grinding. It's about keep pushing yourself, and it's about to adjust to like the finest level. And I absolutely agree with you. And I feel like if I were going back to my 15 years old me, if I am the baseball team and I'm able to travel to America, let's say I play not even have to be like elite team. I just play a local high school team. I will be so happy to see, oh my God, their fastball looks like it sort of accelerating after they it release. And it's that kind of feeling because I play men's league baseball right now and just looking at somebody 20, 27 to 30-year old and they can throw not fast, but like 70, mid 70. And it just feels like that ball is pumping like to your face and the ball just all of a sudden appear in your face and a curveball can drop right below your knees and you can never see that coming. But I definitely agree with you.
yeah, yeah. So it'll get there. Like I said, I think you know there will be a big leader that comes out of China. It's inevitable. There's too many people here. There's too many. Now there's just MLB's here. There's these new leagues and more people are playing. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen
Mm-hmm.
eventually. And like I said, once it happens, you just hope that it just continues to go. And that there isn't a gap. There isn't like a 10, 15 year gap where we see the next one. Because you know how it goes in minor league baseball. It's a tough road, man. It's a tough, uphill climb to get, to the big leagues, so you need more. You can't just have one or two be floating around. Right
Absolutely.
now we've got, two, one with the Pirates and one with the Padres, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
we're hoping, and they're both good prospects, but you need more. And the more that goes, the better chance one's gonna, reach to the top of the mountain. So
Absolutely. And I feel like no matter what happened, Coach Ray, you deserve. If China has a baseball Hall of Fame, I feel like you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, no
I
doubt.
appreciate it, man.
Unanimous vote. But really, really appreciate you today joining the first
Thank you, thank you.
episode of Beyond the Show Baseball Podcast. Coach Ray Chang here, and really, really appreciate working with me on the time difference and getting this call while on your way to get your passport. I really appreciate you, and like I said, some even through video call, I'm in my heart from back in 2007, the first time I saw a Chinese team get on the World Baseball Classic, that high level, and you were there, and it just it makes me happy that I'm here, able to talk to you. And again, thank you for your time, and I hope we can keep in touch and talk more.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, Bid. Thanks for having me on, and congratulations again. And you're a great host, man. And I think you're gonna have a lot of success doing what you're doing. So I appreciate it. Anything I can do to help, please let me know.
Thank you, Ray. And everybody, that's it for the first episode of Beyond the Show Baseball Podcast.